Hi, it's your friendly neighborhood ex-Muslim. People sometimes think that Islam is unique in the sense that it can't be reformed, it can't be changed. They say things like, oh, in Hinduism, in my religion, I can just say, well, this verse in this book, I don't believe that. But Muslims can't say that. Well, actually, Muslims can say that in a sense. Normally, when Muslims are talking about the Quran, there's several ways Muslim scholars use to get out of something. Number one is they can say that was specific to Muhammad's time. Number two is they can say the context has changed. Number three is they can say that according to the principles of Sharia, this is no longer applicable. So things like this is what are ways that Muslim scholars use. In the following clip, Mufti Abu Layth explains that there is another way that Muslim scholars use in order to make things haram that the Prophet himself may have done. For example, slavery. He talks about how bad slavery is. He says things like, would you imagine your own, mother being enslaved and saying this is a good thing? Because you hear Muslim scholars sometimes talk about slavery, Islamic slavery, as if it's a good thing. And he laughs about it and he makes fun of it. And he says, like, you're actually trying to tell me that slavery is a good thing, Islamic slavery? Would anyone want to be captured? He says Muhammad's goal was using trajectory hermeneutics, which basically means that to slowly ban something or slowly phase out something until it's totally banned. Now, of course, to me, that doesn't make any sense because, riba was banned immediately. When the Prophet died, on his final sermon, he's like, no more riba after this day. But apparently slavery was not like that. Slavery continued. Now, of course, Islam did limit the forms of slavery. For example, slaves that are captured in war are the only form of slave, and slaves you buy and sell. But you cannot kidnap someone and make them a slave. You can buy them from a slave market, or you can capture them as a war captive and make them a slave, but you cannot just go and kidnap someone. It has to be one of those two things. So it limited the ways that slaves were captured. For example, in Surah Yusuf of the Quran, they found this boy in the well and they kidnapped him and they made him into a slave. You're not allowed to do that, okay? Because there's no war going on, you can't just kidnap. So Islam did actually do that. And Islam does encourage freeing slaves, but you ask Muslims, well, if freeing slaves is a good thing, then how could you also argue that being an Islamic slave is something that was good for society or something that was needed? Because on the other hand, you're saying Muhammad encouraged freeing slaves. So if he encouraged freeing slaves and slavery is a bad thing, then why was he doing it? That would be my question. But check out this clip by Mufti Abu Layth and see, just how clearly he shows just how bad slavery really is, whether it's Islamic slavery or any slavery. Owning people is bad, period. No matter who does it, no matter if you call it indentured debt or whatever, the point is owning a human being in the form that Islam did it and in the form that, so many different people have done it through history, it's a bad thing, right? It just severely limits a person's autonomy, the freedom. And even if Islam did encourage, allowing a slave to work off his debt or whatever, the point is, slavery is bad, right? And of course, Muhammad also put some restrictions on slavery. According to the hadith, if the hadith are true, he didn't allow slaves to run away. A slave's prayer is not accepted if he runs away from his master. I mean, there's a lot of dumb things like that in the hadith corpus. And of course, like I said, at the end of the day, why didn't he just ban it? Even worse, why did he allow Muslim men to sleep with their slaves? All of these questions, it just makes you wonder, like, how could this religion be from God? Because frankly speaking, why would God allow men to have sex with their slaves? It doesn't make any sense. It's a massive imbalance of power, right? There's no way to consent. There's no way to meaningfully consent in a situation like that. So watch this clip. Let me know what you think. And of course, thumbs up if you like the video and do subscribe to the new channel. Cheers.
Trajectory hermeneutics shows that, look, Allah reveals, for example, a clear verse in the Quran saying how to give sadaqat and zakat. How to give إِنَّمَا الصَّدَقَاتُ لِلْفُقَرَاءِ وَالْمَسَاكِينَ. And Allah says, وَالْمُؤَلَّفَةِ الْقُلُوبِ. And those who are interested in Islam. Omar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anh in his time says, no, this ruling doesn't fit our age anymore. And he changes it. He says you can't give it to them anymore. Many of the ulama, including the Hanafiya and other people, say this is abrogated. Now, when did it get abrogated? Oh, it got abrogated in Umar's time. How does Umar abrogate the Quran? They say, oh, well, maybe he knew of something. No, this is trajectory hermeneutics. In his time, he felt that. I'm not saying we have to agree with him, but this was the methodology, the way of looking, the way of thinking. The same thing with slavery. Now, it is the Prophet always encouraged the freeing and the emancipation of slaves, with the aspiration of setting a trajectory that a time will come when the ethics of the people will develop and enhance to such a stage where slavery will be outlawed and will then become haram. Do you know, I got into a discussion on this group with ulama. It was so disappointing. Charlie Dixon, I'm going to come to that question, and I have answered it on YouTube already. The wife of the Prophet was in her late teens, and I will come back to that. Right, so now I got into a discussion where people tried to say to me, that slavery inherently is not immoral. What the hell are they on about? How is slavery not immoral? Snatching somebody's wives and children and making them your property. That is utterly unacceptable. It is haram in our day and age. People will say, right, so, so what will you say about that day and age? We are talking about our day and age. It is now immoral. I'm not saying whether it was deemed immoral by them. Ethics vary. The ethics of age varies. So people today, we clearly see this as unethical. This is haram. It's not. Some people commented on my thing saying, yeah, but Islam doesn't say slavery is necessary, so it's better not to do it. Better not to do it? What on earth are you on about? This isn't like saying, hey, do you want to eat a cheesecake? I don't know, it's not really too good for my diet. Like, I suppose it's better not to do it. What on earth are you on about? Have you lost your mind? What do you mean it's not better not to do it? It's unacceptable. It's despicable. You can't snatch people's children under any circumstance. So this is the argument. Given some circumstances, you can snatch people's children and wives and turn them into your property. No, you can't. Under no circumstances can you do that. And then somebody said, well, I heard this lecture as well, and these guys are they said, yeah, but we're not talking about like the US Atlantic trade, the Atlantic trade slavery. We're talking about slavery like in Islam, where slaves had rights. I said to them, my friend, kidnap and rape is still kidnap and rape, even if you're giving them 3 meals a day. It is still kidnap. It is still rape. It is still utterly unacceptable. It doesn't matter if you put them in a 5-star hotel. If you've kidnapped them, you've kidnapped them. If you're raping them, you're raping. It doesn't make it okay because you're giving them food to eat. So this is the most absurd kind of logic. And then somebody said to me, right. Somebody said to me, well, they're not really slaves. We don't call them slaves. These were scholars arguing with me on a group. They said, these are not, we're like, Islam says you're like their caretaker. I said, are you for real? Caretaker. Don't beat around the bush. Everybody knows what bloody slavery is. Don't try to kind of like give it this veneer of caretaker. If somebody snatches your kids, right, calls themselves, I'm a caretaker. What do you mean caretaker? So you can't, this is nonsense. This is absurd. Don't try to lie and twist your words to beautify this kind of ugly brutality in this day and age. It is haram. Right, this is what is important. That as the age goes by, the laws have changed. I ask you, how do you prohibit slavery? How do you outlaw slavery unless you accept that ethics change? Unless you accept trajectory hermeneutics. So, otherwise you have to agree with slavery inherently not having a problem. So this is some food for thought. I'm putting that out there. And the important thing to understand is that, look, rules, laws were only meant to be solutions to people's problem. Don't confuse the vehicle, which is revelation, which is sacred, as a vehicle for what it's saying. Because what it's saying may be just a ruling which is relevant for its age. Like, for example, Allah says in the Quran about preparing a defense strategy. وَأَعِدُّوا لَهُمْ, prepare for them. It's a commandment in the Quran. مَسْتَطَعْتُمْ, to the extent of your capacity. مِنْ رِبَاطِ الْخَيْلِ, and Allah says prepare horses. Horses, He's telling you, as your defense. Today, nobody would disagree with me that, oh, but that's not talking about, in our day and age, we would prepare military tanks and kind of like airplanes, and like we would have kind of military jets and other kind of nuclear power and things like this. That today, the military aspect is different. You wouldn't prepare horses, even though Allah is saying it's a clear verse in the Quran. It's not ambiguous.
Thanks for watching. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe to the new channel and join me on Patreon. Support me financially if you can. That would be most appreciated. This is your friendly neighborhood ex-Muslim Abdullah Samir signing out.